Part 3, the Baroque Era. The period between roughly 1600 and 1750 was first called the Baroque Era by historians. The Baroque Era is the historical period in music extending approximately from 1600 to 1750. So, by using the term Baroque, historians were calling attention to the extravagant and even bizarre qualities of the music and art. Indeed, music's textures, harmonies, and forms tend to be more free and unpredictable in Baroque music than in the music of the Renaissance. You know, Baroque to me is just so big on ornamentation and extremes. I mean, check this out. Look at this lavish, extreme attire. The hair, the fabric, the detail in the dress. We're not that far off. Look at the 80s. Look at the extreme attire. Look at the hair. Come on. We're not that far removed from the Baroque era. Now that also relates to the music. Embellishing, improvisation, emphasize energy, motion, ornamentation at extremes. Wow. Yeah, we've come a long way, but have we? So, during the Baroque era, a nation's splendor was measured in cultural terms as well as political and economic terms. The arts were an important means of projecting power and authority. The arts were an important means of projecting power and authority. Rulers vied with one another to find and retain the best artistry, or the artists, poets, composers, and musicians. When the ruler of Hanover in Germany became King George I of England, he took with him his court composer, George Frederick Handel, who anglicized his name to George Frederick Handel. Handel's fame as a composer throughout Europe reflected well on the new king. Across the English Channel from England, the 14th, who ruled France from 1643 until his death in 1715, spared no expense on the arts and was particularly passionate about music and dance. Continue on reading in your textbook. There's much more about Bach and Lully and so much more. The splendor of the church. The arts served also to project the power of the church. The same theatrically and intense artistic expression designed to arouse earthly passions could awaken religious passion as well. Churches spent large sums of money on lavish decoration that would both convey the church's authority and inspire religious fervor. Churches invested small fortunes in their organs, and organ building enjoyed its golden age in the Baroque era. Artists such as Johann Sebastian Bach and others who wrote and performed incredible works like Fugue in G minor, which you can see in chapter 18. Listeners of all levels could thus easily follow the course of this intricate movement and be uplifted by its glorious sound. So arts became increasingly public. The first public opera house opened in Venice in 1637, and by the early 18th century, even some theaters under the control of ruling monarchs began opening their doors to paying customers. So to speak, the music business was growing. But not all productions of opera and oratorio were successful. In fact, arson became a serious problem in the opera world for a time during the Baroque era in an attempt to recoup losses. Unscrupulous investors were known to set fire to opera houses to collect insurance money. Now, as you're reading in your textbook online, make sure you check out Closer Look, the Baroque Opera House. Again, it has great interactions where you can check it out what the opera house really looked like in that era. It's super interesting. So go back and check it out. All right, awesome. The Baroque era was an age of opulence, and that opulence extended to the world of sound. Virtuoso singers and instrumentalists were coveted by rulers and the public alike. As soloists, these musicians were expected to embellish the parts written for them. In other words, improv. As a jazz musician, I must say, hello, you were supposed to embellish your performance and add licks and little riffs to what you were doing. Interesting. What is preserved in the notated score today is by many accounts only an outline of what these skilled soloists actually performed, which is really cool. Castrati singers. This one breaks my heart. Singers who had been castrated as young boys as to preserve the high range of their voices were in especially high demand. Through their art, the most successful castrati became the equivalent of millionaires. They possessed both the high range of a woman's voice and the physical lore of a man's voice, and the effect could be stunning. The castrato was an entirely unnatural phenomenon, of course, in the barbaric by today's standards, but for Baroque audiences, the pursuit of vocal beauty justified even the most drastic measures.